laws and policies in China, we have to punish you. But deep down inside, my anxiety is like up to here. Oh my gosh, like what if I go to jail? But what's up, you guys? Welcome back to another video. For those new to my channel, my name is Jordan. Make sure you like, comment, and you're subscribed. So before we get into the video, I want to just say a disclaimer. I am fully aware of the huge mistake that we made, and I take full accountability. I'm only sharing this, my experience, hoping that this video will help somebody else and prevent them from making the same mistake that we made. And I also want to mention that China immigration did nothing wrong. They were just doing their jobs. I am very appreciative of the officer who did book our flight for us the next day free of charge, and everybody at the airport, everybody in immigration. I am very thankful, and again, I take full responsibility for the mistake that I made, and I still love China. We love China. I just wanted to put this disclaimer out there before I begin this story. This story started last Friday. We were on our way to Vietnam, which is where we currently are now. I'm in the Airbnb, and also too, I am very sick. So if I look very more pale than usual, my nose sounds very stuffy. I actually came down with a cold, and I am currently taking these cold medications that I ordered yesterday on Grab. This was only $3, and it's helping tremendously. I have a terrible stuffy nose and a lot of head congestion and feeling kind of fatigued, but I'm going to post this video because I need to get this story out there, hoping that it helps prevent one of you guys from doing the same mistake that I did. So the story starts last Friday. My family and I are taking a 2-week trip to Vietnam, and we booked our flights for July the 17th, which is also Adis's actual birthday. So we decided to come out to Vietnam, celebrate her birthday, and see what Vietnam is like. We want to travel Asia, so we decided to come to Vietnam and cross over the border into Vietnam. Our visas expired on the 17th of the month. So the last time we entered back into China was on the 17th of April, 3 months ago. So I assumed when booking the flight that it would be okay for us to leave on the 17th of July. We did see tickets for the 16th of July. Unfortunately, by the time we got our visas for Vietnam, the tickets were gone. Had I known that we needed to be gone before the 17th, I would have booked that 11-hour flight, 9-hour flight, 7-hour flight. But I assumed that as long as we were gone by the 17th, leaving on the 17th, we would be okay. So I booked the flight for the 17th. We had a layover in Quy Minh, so from Chengdu to Quy Minh, and then Quy Minh to Vietnam. So before we even get to the Chengdu International Airport, we were stressing to get there. For some reason, we left later than we were supposed to leave, and our boarding time was for 12:30, and we were probably just going through security or getting to the airport at 12:30. And again, I think that is my fault. I don't know what, there was so much going on. I wasn't even thinking about booking the DD ride for earlier. It's a 45-minute drive to the airport, and we got there right at maybe like 12:10, 12:15, and the boarding time was 12:30. So we go through security, which was a long, extensive process. Luckily, we were able to cut the line and let them know like, hey, our plane is boarding now, but for some reason we were patted down a lot, which again is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the way China does their thing, and we abide by the rules. So they were patting us down, but as they're patting us down, one of the attendants from China Eastern Airlines came over and was looking for us, telling us to hurry up, telling security to hurry up, and then they had to check our bags because I take my jewelry on the plane with me, so they wanted to check my jewelry and all of our electronics. It was taking a long time, but we made it through. We ran to the gate and got on our flight right on time. We're the last ones to board. We got on right on time. Thank goodness. Shout out to China Eastern Airlines if you're ever flying in Asia. China Eastern Airlines is a wonderful flight. Once we got on, we felt relaxed. They announced it was Adis's birthday. They brought her over some treats. Other people wished her happy birthday on the flight. It was a great flight. We felt so relaxed. So it was about an hour to get to Quy Minh. It was a very fast flight. We get to Quy Minh, and we decided our flight was kind of delayed. We got a message that the flight was delayed, so we decided to stop and get some food. And then I'm like, okay, let's just go ahead and head through immigration now. because we don't know how long this is going to take. If there's a long line, I don't know. So we go through immigration, there's no long line, and the lady looks at me and then she calls somebody over and she says something, and he says to me, "You are 1 day late." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like telling me, "You overstayed by 1 day." I was like, no, we didn't. And he was like, "Yes, you overstayed by 1 day. The 17th is your stamp from April. You overstayed 1 day. Come with us." And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. I'm thinking, I don't know what's about to happen. Never has this happened to me ever. And I never want this to happen again. But we go with them, and it's maybe like 2 or 3 hours before our flight time. And all three of us had to go with them. So we go to this immigration desk, an officer, we have to give them our passports and our boarding passes from Kunming to Vietnam. And he's pretty much like, "You overstayed by 1 day." And I'm like, "I know, but I hear you." I did not know that was, that we would have to be gone before the 17th. I assumed on the 17th it would be okay. And he's like, no. And he spoke pretty good English. So we were talking with him most of the time, and we're just sitting there like very worried. My heart is racing, I'm sweating, Mel is anxious, and I'm the one that's like talking with the officer. So it was kind of taking a while, maybe like 10 minutes. And the ladies, they said we can sit down, but I did not want to. I was so nervous because we needed to get on that flight. I didn't know what was going to happen. I've never even seen what can happen to you if you overstay your visa. So he pretty much comes to us and tells us that, not word for word, but unfortunately, China is very strict on their visa policies, which I 100% understand. And he said that our only options are to book a flight for the next day, which was Saturday the 18th, because we were not going to make our flight that day, to book our flight for the next day, or to fly into Thailand or Cambodia that doesn't have visa restrictions, I guess, which I still don't understand what that has to do with anything. I'm not really sure what that means. Comment below if you know what that means, how we can fly from China to Thailand. I understand that there's no visa, but how is that going to help us in this situation? Like, would we have been able to leave that same day if we went to Thailand instead? I have no idea. But we pretty much tell him, like, we cannot pay for another flight for tomorrow, nor can we pay to go to Thailand and then to Vietnam. And, at this point, like, I'm crying a little bit because I am so upset. I'm mad at myself because I should have really looked into, is it okay that we leave on the 17th? I'm just so mad at myself and thinking like I should have looked for the 17th or for the 16th. I'm just so upset with myself. And I'm kind of crying. I'm like, "Sir, we cannot get another flight for a different day. Can we just get on this flight?" He's like, "No, it's too late. We're canceling your flight and we're removing your bags off the plane. You cannot get on this flight. You're gonna have to go the next day." So I'm crying, and I look over and I see Adish just bawling because she sees me crying, and she's like, "It's my birthday." And she's crying, quietly. And I'm like, "Honey, it's okay." We pretty much talk to her and tell her, Mommy made the mistake. Things happen. On birthdays, they're not always perfect, but we will make this birthday up to you. I'm so very sorry. And the officer comes back over and he pretty much tells us that laws and policies in China, we have to punish you. We have to. There's no way around that. We can't just let people go. And I said, "I totally understand." And he was like, "You have to come back tomorrow to receive your punishment. Your punishment can either be a warning or your punishment can be a fine. But we have to talk with our bosses and they are going to decide what your punishment is." He said, "Out of the kindness of my heart, I got you guys on the next flight tomorrow for free." We had to go upstairs and confirm with them and get our flight details, and we had to find our luggage. So I'm thinking, I'm still upset with myself, and I'm like, okay, at least we're on the flight for tomorrow. The worst is kind of over, even though we're not really sure what the punishment is. So we had to go upstairs, get the information for a flight for the next day, and then find our luggage. Finding our luggage was probably the hardest part. At this point, the airport is packed. After going upstairs, we had to go downstairs on another side to get our luggage. We cannot find it anywhere because the place international arrivals pickup, we did not see that downstairs. There was domestic pickup, but we didn't see the arrivals. So we ended up asking somebody for help, and he didn't even work for the airport. He was probably one of those people that are trying to get people for taxis. And he ended up saying that he would help us for a tip. And I was like, no, I'll just go find my bags myself. And he said, no, I'll help you, no tip. So he ended up helping us. And as we're walking around the airport, I see something that says overnight stay for your luggage. You can leave your luggage overnight. And I told Mela, you know, let's get our luggage and go over there and ask them how much it's going to be to leave our stuff. And we find our luggage, and then we go over there to ask how much it's going to be to leave our stuff. And the price was 30 RMB per luggage. And it just didn't really seem worth it to us. So we just were like, we'll just take our luggage with us. And now we needed to find a hotel. So we ended up looking on Trips and finding a hotel in Kunming. The hotel was only 15 USD, which was great because the hotel is actually very nice. It was in a really unique place. We were so tired. This whole process, we were at the airport from 1, maybe 2 p.m. in Kunming. We didn't leave and get into our hotel until almost 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. So we end up getting a lady who had a taxi to take us to the hotel. It was about 10 USD to get to the hotel, and they helped us with our luggage. We check into our hotel, we go to our room, and we just wanted a place to sleep. We didn't even want to shower, change clothes, go through our bags, find anything. We just ate, brushed our teeth, and then slept on top of the sheets with our little throw blankets that we brought with us. Also, before we left the airport, they did let us know that we need to be back at the airport. At first they said 1 o'clock, then they said 12 o'clock, and then they said 10 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock. So we were like, okay, let's be there before 9. So we get there about 8:30. We go up to the place where the lady was giving us the tickets because we had to go to immigration to get our punishment. So we get up there, and the lady's like, you're too early. I'm like, well, we were told to be here. And she was like, your flight doesn't even start boarding until after your flight doesn't even start boarding. She didn't tell us the time because we only had a piece of paper that had the flight information on it, and it was all in Chinese. So we didn't know what time our flight was boarding, but she told us we needed to be there 3 hours before our flight, which 3 hours would be noon, and it was 8:30. So we had to wait at the airport from 8:30 to almost noon to check in and then to go down to immigration. So we're waiting, we're trying to keep Adise entertained because, you know, this whole ordeal is upsetting and a little stressful for her. So we're just kind of walking around the airport, we're watching movies on our phones, but again, trying not to use our phone too much because we don't want it to die. I'm reading books to her, we're getting coffee, snacks, just trying to ease our mind because we want to make sure we get on these flights. So finally, at 12 o'clock, we were able to check in. We were able to get our boarding passes, which was the most important thing to me because I was so afraid that this flight was going to be full, or maybe he didn't come through with what he said he would getting these flights. But they got us our boarding passes, and we go downstairs to immigration. And I'm thinking the hard part is over. No. No. So we get downstairs, and immigration is looking at our visas, and they're like, you overstayed 2 days. I was like, no. We technically only overstayed 1 day, but we were told they canceled our flight. We had to stay here, and they told us to come back today to speak to the man. And we also knew that the man was not going to be in that same area today, which, or the day we were there. The first man who helped us get the flight, we knew he told us he was not going to be there. He was going to be working in a different department. So we couldn't just be like, that was the guy we talked to. So they go and get somebody else who pulls us into the immigration section, and they were like, you know, you overstayed 2 days. I'm like, well, we only overstayed 1 day technically. We were told to come back today to catch our flight and receive our punishment. We're just here to get our punishment. So they're like, okay, have a seat, and they have us sit in this room. This time, the first time we were not in the room. The second time we're in this room, and the room is like all glass, but it's like that foggy glass, so you can't see what's going on out in front of you. You can't see the side, and there's just the door. So there's a lady, she spoke a little bit of English, and I was like, can I ask a question? How long is this gonna take? The lady was like, you know, you just gotta have a seat here. Don't worry, we're gonna go over your stuff. Just have a seat and wait. And so then they end up getting security to come and sit, and I'm pretty sure they told them to not let us out of the room. We were not to leave that room. So we're sitting there waiting, and it is taking a long time, and I forgot to look at the boarding pass to see what time our flight took off, to see what time they would start boarding. I completely forgot. So we're just sitting there waiting. We are tired, sweaty, hungry, anxious too, because we don't know what is about to happen, and we are worried that we're going to miss our new flight. So they end up, there was other people too that end up coming in the room, and we were told not to be on our phones either. So we just kind of had to sit there and just like wait and wait and wait. So maybe an hour goes by and I was like, hey, I need to speak with somebody who speaks English. So again, it's the same lady who assisted us the first time. And I was like, hey, you know, how much longer is this going to take? We have our flight to catch. We want to make sure we don't miss our flight. And she was like, no worries, you're not going to miss your flight. You're not going to miss it. You just got to wait. You just got to wait. You just got to wait. Do you have to go to the bathroom or anything? So I asked the D if she has to go to the bathroom. She says yes. And so her and I are escorted by an officer to the restroom. The officer was very nice because the D started crying. And the officer was very nice, and she was like, everything's going to be okay. There's no need to worry. You know, why don't you just put some water on your face and like calm down and we'll get you some water. So we go to the bathroom, water on our faces. When she's crying, I start crying because I hate seeing my baby cry. So we wipe our faces, we get some water, and then we go back and we're sitting, we're waiting. Another hour goes by and we're just like, what is going on? And we see people walking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and they have documents, and then they go back and then they come back. And we're just like, what is taking so long? You know, we still don't know what this punishment is going to be, whether or not we're going to have to pay a fine. We have no idea, and we don't even know our flight time. So by the time we're almost approaching the third hour, I asked to speak with the lady again, and I said, hey, like, are we going to make this flight? Like, tell me the truth if we're going to make this flight. And she said, yes, no worries, you're going to make the flight. You just have to wait. And I said, well, what time is our flight time? Because I did not know. 3:15 was the boarding time. So it's almost 3 o'clock. And she said, you're going to make it. 3:15 is your boarding time. So I'm like, okay, I'm trying to be, you know, she's being very nice to me. I'm being very nice to her. But deep down inside, my anxiety is like up to here. And so right at 3:15, this man comes and he was like, you, to me, he was like, I need you. And I'm like, okay. So Mela had to wait with the D's. So we go into the room. He has all this paperwork, my photo, my passport picture, a picture of my passport, a picture of our boarding passes. And he pretty much said that we overstayed by 2 days. They're still going to count it as 2 days overstay because we were not able to make the flight the first time. So we ended up having to overstay in China 2 days. And they are going to let us off with a warning. But unfortunately, I got 2 punishments because I'm responsible for a D because I signed her passport. So I'm responsible for her. So I got 2 punishments, 2 warnings, and I just had to sign a bunch of papers, my documents, Adis's documents, and then they gave me my passport and boarding pass. And then next was Mela. She had to sign the same thing. And he said, this is a warning. The next time you will get. In the moment that I'm signing these documents, I'm starting to really think like, okay, it's only documents that I'm signing. I'm getting a warning. Thank goodness. I'm very appreciative of the warning. But I think I started to realize that possibly the punishment was psychological. Like they really made us wait in this room where you could only see out of by one door with security just to have us sign documents and give us a warning, which again, I'm thankful that we just got a warning, but I feel like that the punishment was so psychological because we are on edge. We're anxious. We don't know what's going on. We don't have any answers. We don't know what time, how long this is going to take. And they made us wait until our plane was boarding to get us to sign the documents and then to free us pretty much. So lesson learned, like I said, I will never do this again. And I told the man, I said, I promise this will never happen again. I will never do this again. I am so sorry. But yeah, I do think the punishment was psychological. And maybe not, maybe I'm wrong, but it definitely felt like a psychological punishment. We just did not know if we were going to make our flight or not. And then to wait until the last second, and then we had to run to the gate. Yeah, that was a punishment, China. That was a punishment that I don't ever want to experience, and I don't want you to experience either. So Mela goes in and she signs her documents, and it is a little bit after 3:15 at this point, and we're just like, okay, like we got to go. Like I'm wrapping my hair up because I'm prepared to run to make sure we make it on this flight. And I tell Adise, I said, put everything away, hold on to your luggage, get ready because we are going to run. And we finally get our stuff and get through. We had to go through security again, and they're checking our stuff. This time they weren't patting us down as much, but they're like, you know, we want to see her electronics and all this stuff. And, you know, we had to take everything out and then put everything back in and run to our flight. And I'm like, I can see the number, it's like 69. I can see the number of where we were boarding at, but I couldn't tell if they had boarded already. I could not tell anything. And I'm just like, Adise, run. And I'm keep running with my luggage. She's running. She would stop to take a break. And I'm like, babe, come on, you're doing so good. Hurry, keep running. And my baby, she did so amazing. She was exhausted. I was exhausted, but I know she was even more exhausted than I was from all that running. So we made it on time for our flight. We ended up landing in Vietnam Saturday night around 9:30. And I'm just so thankful that we were still able to make it. And I have learned my lesson to never go past my visa stay. The man did tell Mela that if this happens again, we will get fined like almost 800 RMB per day. 800 RMB is 118 USD. So times that by 3 people, $354 we'd have to pay if we get fined again, which I'm never doing that again, ever. I will never overstay. And again, I appreciate China for, they're literally just doing their jobs. It was all me. It was my mistake. They did nothing wrong. They're doing what they're supposed to do. I did the wrong thing. So please learn from me. If your stamp is for the 17th, you need to be out of there before the 17th, whatever date that stamp is. You got to leave before that day. Lesson learned. That is something I never want to experience again, and I hope you don't ever experience that either. Comment below on if anything like this has ever happened to you, if you have any suggestions or any comments you would like to leave, or even any questions, because I want to make sure that this does not happen to you as well, because that was something I never want to experience. I don't like being in trouble, and I just felt like, oh my gosh, like what if I go to jail? But that's just me being dramatic. But yes, I want to make sure this does not happen to you. So comment any questions you have, especially being in China, and I will answer all of your questions. Thank you guys so much for watching. We have been in Vietnam officially 7 days, and we have 7 more days here at our Airbnb, and we are loving it. I just wish I was not sick. I've been down for 3 days, you guys, and I'm hoping that tomorrow I'll feel even better. I was able to go out walking today, but yesterday I could not really leave the bed. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be posting more Vietnam content. We love being out here in Vietnam. It is so beautiful, so amazing, and I just am hoping that I feel better so we can do a lot more stuff. See you next time. Bye.